Hello, I'm going to talk about avoiding burnout. So we'll look at a definition, our understanding now, the why, the who, some strategies for change and strategies to cope. Anyone who's read Henry Marsh's book, Do No Harm, will have seen this in the introduction. Every surgeon carries within himself a small cemetery where from time to time he goes to pray, a place of bitterness and regret where he must look for an explanation for his failures. And I guess COVID has supercharged this with moral injury. We may have perpetrated or borne witness to or failed to prevent acts that transgress our deeply held moral beliefs. And then there's the perfection myth and the punishment myth, which says that people, if they try hard enough, will not make errors. And if we punish them, they'll make fewer errors. And we know that this is clearly wrong. So Maslach described burnout as a state of depersonalization, emotional exhaustion, and a sense of reduced personal accomplishment, which can result from all of those things that I've just talked about. And they have a huge effect, both personally and professionally. And I would not underestimate the suicide risk for doctors who have been in this state. There is a slight correlation with patient safety incidents, but we must talk about that. So what are the stats? So the review that my group did showed that doctors are emotionally exhausted in much higher proportion to the general population. This is a particular problem for NHS consultants and juniors, and surgeons seem to be very, very highly affected. Nearly a third are depersonalized at work, and we're second only to pathology and microbiology for depressive symptoms. Many studies have shown a link between patient safety incidents and the burnt out doctor, which again we must debate. So what are the factors associated with burnout? These are personal problems, family, income, lack of extracurricular duties, psychological factors, emotional intelligence and grit, and then of course the workplace. The academia seems to protect. Being involved in medical errors and having a high workload seems to have a very negative impact. And there are a whole list of other things which I'm sure you will all identify with. So why? Well, it's the intensity and the complexity of the workload. And we must not, again, underestimate the impact of the electronic patient record. And this was all before COVID. Once COVID hit, we've supercharged this and add in a bit of organizational antipathy, poor interpersonal relationships, and problems at home. We have significant problems. And surgeons are particularly vulnerable because we have a high perceived self-sacrifice, a sense of perfectionism and commitment, and this does cause problems. So we are vulnerable. There are signs and symptoms that we can spot, and I'm sure you've seen all of these in your workplace, and there's a correlation with depression and suicidal ideation. So this is the meat and drink of it. How do we avoid this? Well, we've got to start by considering the relationship between empowerment and organizational outcomes. We must take a three-pronged approach. We must look at the system, the organization, and then the individual. We must stop blaming the individuals and say that it's a problem with lack of resilience. So in the immediate, urgent setting, we need to stop, we need to take time off, seek professional help, speak to colleagues, formulate a plan, and we must review our workloads. Being damaged goods is a real common perception. There are local resources available. Practitioner help on a national level has done a significant amount of work with healthcare workers. And of course, the Royal College of Surgeons has huge resources, as does the Royal Medical Benevolent Fund. So we must not underestimate this, and we must let colleagues know about it. So let's look at medical school. Well, we're chosen for medical school with a high level of resilience, but there seems to be an erosion during our training. And Don Berwick said we must focus more on quality, protecting civility, and rejecting greed. So the system has to change, and perhaps add in coaching to help people through this very difficult time. In terms of organisation, we need to really push forward this concept of psychological safety. So if our psychological space has to be like a delicate vase, well, we need to put it on a table where our behaviours reflect kindness, empathy, and civility and assertiveness. But the table is nothing without its legs, and these are the attitudes of respect, humility, trust, and curiosity. So psychological safe spaces in the workplace are important, and reflective group practice, having mentorship by hospitals does show that the organisation cares. And then we come to the personal. There is a degree of psychological awareness, looking after oneself, and role modelling for others, because there is a risk and reward with all of this. So my takeaways for you are: we need to build awareness. We're human beings first. This is reversible, and there's a growing body of evidence now that can show that our mental health does impact on our performance and outcomes. We must target interventions and look at this concept of psychological safety. It can affect the best in the world, and we must realise that it's okay to be not okay. My takeaway for you is that we are ordinary people doing an extraordinary job. Thank you very much.